I just focus on my team now. I just want them to feel the best. I just want them to feel like they're part of a bigger vision. And when they are involved, I don't have to really talk to my customers a lot. The team is passionate enough and motivated enough to solve the customer problems, go out there, talk to them. And I don't really have to motivate them because I've started accepting their opinion. I've started to incorporate whatever feedback they have. That makes them feel valued at the same time. And when they feel valued, they give their best. And when they give their best, the company grows.
Our featured speaker today is an experienced computer science engineer and co-founder of Voyage, an end-to-end identity verification solution for a variety of industries, including finance and education, provides full-stack AI-driven KYC product to companies. Sarthak recently completed Y Combinator and has agreed to speak about his experience there and the other developments in his entrepreneurial journey over the past year since we spoke with him. So, Sarthak, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, and we're really honored to have you as our featured guest today. Thank you so much for being willing to come and share your journey with us again.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Nancy. I mean, we've all started from this uh, base that we have, that's the entrepreneurship bootcamp, and coming back and speaking here is something that's always special because that's where it all started, right? When I was speaking the last time, things were at certain point, and we were growing in Void, we were scaling it. The whole journey that has been for the last 12 months, 12 to 15 months, has been a roller coaster ride, and would love to talk about it, what changed since then. If people were there in the last one, where have we gone from that stage, what experiences we've had, something specific to, let's say, Y Combinator, if anybody wants to ask, or if it's not there publicly, would be happy to answer. Always back for the community.
I really appreciate that. I know you've been through a roller coaster this past year. I was wondering if it would be okay to kick off and just ask you what the highlights are from your perspective.
I mean, in terms of Invoid, I think we were doing somewhat like, in terms of revenue, right? On an annual revenue rate, we were doing somewhere around like $100K annual revenue rate. And at this point of time, last month, we clocked $2 million in annual revenue rate. So that has been crazy hockey stick journey that we've had. Considering that we had no idea how remote would become such a huge part in our life, we had no clue, and how services would be distributed online without even meeting anyone, how it would grow, considering how obviously cryptocurrency has grown, let's say other investment vehicles, people have started exploring them very recently. So that has helped us grow our platform. Apart from that, we were not profitable when I was speaking the last time. As of now, we're profitable, and the first set of investors that we had, we have given them the returns. We've had the honor to remove them from our shareholding table, and all the buyback is from the revenue itself, from the profits that we had. Sort of parted ways with our initial investors by giving them a good return. Post that, we got into Y Combinator, which was very recent. We did it not because of the money, because we were anyway profitable, but we did Y Combinator because of the connects that it brings, the credibility that it brings to our startup. That was definitely one of the reasons. And now we've raised a fund post our Y Combinator journey. We've not announced it publicly. That's a whole together. I mean, it's all together a different part of our startup journey. Having built a product, created revenue, and then bringing on investors. Those are some things that have changed for sure. The revenue, the cap table. At a personal level, I've learned a lot of things that way. Basically, what kind of customers do you concentrate on? What kind of distractions do you get while, let's say, you're scaling? And what kind of mistakes you all do while scaling? Could be a technical debt that we introduce in the product, right? Or not understanding or not really focusing on some key aspects while scaling, and realizing them later on that they've been missed, and they can come bite you later. A lot of learnings to share. So personally as well, started to see bigger pictures more often in life. I mean, definitely stopped looking at key nuances all the time. Sometimes you have to stop looking at nuances and go back to the bigger picture, have more context, interact with a lot of people in different industries, which can give you an idea of where you can go with next with your product journey or company's journey, and not just stick to whatever you think is the right thing, or getting too convoluted in understanding of your product. So definitely at a personal level, I've started being more acceptable about what we are building and how we are building it, and open towards criticism, because we've realized that thinking of in a particular way for your product is something which is very common. We all end up doing it. When you take a step back, you might just see what you're missing. So those have been some learnings in personal aspect as well, as a founder.
Thank you so much. I think one of the points that you raised is something that I also really need to sort of learn myself, especially as technical founders. We tend to be very zoomed in on the nitty gritty of something. And as you say, taking a bit of a broader view every now and then can really assist with like your actual company's direction. That's a very good point you've raised. If we can sort of link back a little bit, I was hoping that you could talk about how you first became fascinated with computer science and AI.
So I realized that technology can change a lot of lives. And I know it's a cliched statement, a very generic statement, but the kind of impact that it has created in the last 1 year or 2 years or 3 years is a testimony in itself, how technology can basically help, build companies in like days and scale them to unicorns in a year, right? So businesses can sort of take the next level using technology, right? With a lot of direct to consumer brands coming in. Now that we see a lot of the consumer space also using technology to basically help scale the business, and realizing that if they don't use technology now, they'll be thrown out of the market, right? They'll become outdated. So back then it was a choice. Now it's the default, right? So back then when it was a choice, I mean, I definitely felt that this is the area I really want to contribute. You can actually create meaningful products, meaningful applications by coding, right? So I did not want to miss that chance, and that's why I ended up studying computer science. I was fascinated by coding, what it could build, and probably in a week you could create something that would impact millions of lives for years in time span, right? While studying computer science, I felt that I had some business acumen as well. So that sort of mixture was definitely brewing in college life. I was studying computer science, but I was also understanding how businesses can work, how you can sell your code, right? I mean, I was writing code just for the heck of it, just for the fun that I was getting, but realizing that you could actually make business out of it and impact lives was something that really changed my whole perspective. And I realized that I wanted to build something that would be more than just myself, right? Not just a piece of code written and put on my desktop. No, it's not like that. It has to go become a product in itself. And that was how computer science with a purpose came into my life. After that, AI was something back in my college. We had a coursework. That's when I was studying it. And I realized that at least in my country, AI wasn't being utilized as it could have been. Right? I mean, I would see in the US, there were a lot of products coming in, self-driving cars being one of the major use case, which has gone a bit ahead in its time, which is pertaining to computer vision and AI. So seeing that, and then all these, what do you call, counterless stores, right, where you don't really go to a counter or get yourself billed for a certain number of products. You just walk out of the store. That kind of technology was really fascinating, and I realized that if computer vision is something that is going to boom in coming future, considering that bots are going to be more popular, self-driving cars, and other examples that I was giving. So realize that computer science has to go to the next level now. Building machine learning models would be a great idea to automate a lot of tasks which machines can do, which humans are good at, but only till a limited capacity, right? Either by time or by efforts or by energy, right? So when these efforts get limited, or the energy or the time gets limited, technology or machine learning models can come into picture and change the face of how tasks are performed or can be automated. And while I mean, so things were start getting connected, right? Computer science with a business perspective, then coming to a problem statement. for automating tasks. And the final part of the maze was, to understand financial inclusion was something that's missing. So a problem statement with automation plus helping in financial decisions or automation of onboarding per se. All of these things got connected, and we realized we needed to build a product which would use computer vision, automate tasks while verifying someone. Right? We ourselves, I mean, I was a victim myself of late dropped off onboarding journeys, which I used to pay my Uber bills, got blocked because my KYC was not done. So that was our aha moment. We realized we already were interested in AI. Things seemed well. We understood the problem ourselves. We were suffering it. So we realized that this makes perfect sense. We've always been wanting to build something in computer vision, and here it is, right in front of us, a problem statement which we should definitely explore. And that's how Void started its journey to build what it is now, which is an identity verification suite for developers to get started. So eventually, where we are, where we got by struggling for 3 years, we realized that we were actually building not for the product managers of the company, but we were building for the developers. So the whole story gets connected, right? I was a developer myself, and I then ended up building a product and then made a niche to target only developers in the developer community. So that's how the circle got completed. I felt more satisfied when I was selling to developers, because I understand the product's value really lies when somebody's actually executing it. And the product manager is not executing the product that we are selling; it's the developer who's executing it. So that made sense.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking us through that. Honestly, I feel like last time I grilled you so much about how you had set up the perfect business, to kind of survive the toughest juncture in the beginning, that we didn't really ask you quite as much about the journey behind that. So I love that you're taking us through the kind of the birth process of Invoid and taking us through your journey. I went through the questions that we asked you last time and the questions that I don't think we got to ask you, and one that we ask almost everyone that's attended the boot camp, I don't think asked you. So, what prompted your interest in attending the MIT boot camp program initially? Because I know you met your co-founder there.
That's actually a very good question, because I know I'm being redundant, but this is where it all get started in my life. I had this, as I was telling, right in the middle of my college, towards the end, I was realizing that I wanted to build something. Coding is sort of a superpower. I mean, it used to be. Now it's becoming very common. But back then, when somebody could code, right, at least in my country, you could build anything yourself. So I wanted to leverage out that, but I don't think I had the correct framework, or didn't know actually how to start it. So when I came across Entrepreneurship Bootcamp, I realized that this is the place that I definitely need to go and explore. Because if I was just sitting and thinking of starting something of my own, I wouldn't reach anywhere, right? I would just probably do some hit and trials and never really understand how it actually works, or what kind of things are supposed to be looked at when you're starting something. The analogy or the framework that I got there has definitely, I mean, I feel good that it definitely paid off, right? When I learned those things, I still use them. A lot of people that I meet now, and who are planning to start something of their own, have just started, don't understand these concepts. I took a bet, right? I'd definitely go out to Australia to attend this boot camp, and I was a bit skeptical. I consulted a lot of people, a lot of senior people in my group, whether I should do this or not, because this seems like a global program. And I'm not sure, because if I'm going to build it for my country, in my country, I'm not sure if this program would be that helpful. But there were some really good people around me who made me realize that this is the kind of exposure that you should get. Because if you stuck in your own circle, then you're never going to grow, right? If you don't get out of that zone of whatever and go out and try to understand and learn from other people, that would anyway be help. If it does not apply to our country, let's say, particularly, that's what they said, but you'd get an exposure, and that kind of exposure you wouldn't get in any other program, because it's MIT. It's not a local or a country specific college. It's MIT. A lot of people, a lot of history, a lot of understanding from different domains and countries and people. So I definitely knew that, I was sure that I would be going, and it has literally been the best investment as to where Invoid is now. as Nancy, you were mentioning, I met my co-founders there. It's like the toughest thing. Finding, if you wish to start with someone, finding a co-founder is the toughest thing that you're going to go through. And I was so lucky. I consider myself lucky because I met my co-founders in the bootcamp. I give myself credit that I was able to decide whether I should be going to the bootcamp or not. I would fully give the credit to myself and the people I consulted. But I would definitely give the whole credit to the bootcamp when I met my co-founder and when I was able to start my own startup. So definitely the credit goes to the bootcamp. It gave me the motivation, gave me the right set of people to start with.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I think it's good to hear, even though we've all gone through it, it's good to hear from other people's perspective, the value that they've gotten out of it. Now, obviously, congratulations are in order on being accepted and going through Y Combinator. I know that their batches are composed of startups at various stages. Can you talk about why it felt like the right time for Invoid in particular to apply?
Right. So most of the startups which go to Y Combinator are at a pre-seed or seed stage, which means they're starting out, they have an idea, or maybe they've executed it, but they've not found the product market fit. I needed to give this context to understand why we were at a very different stage and why we did it. So we were applying into Y Combinator for a while now. I mean, it was not the first attempt that we got through it. It was the second attempt. Till then, we were past the revenue stage, past the PMF. Again, it was the same thing. I mean, I am looking for exposure. I don't want to be confined in what I know. So Y Combinator made sense to all of us because of that. We wanted to grow out of a circle, understand how other startups work, what are the other things that startups are supposed to go through or can learn from. That was one. Second, Y Combinator has this awesome set of mentors. Alumni is great. Not only do you learn from them, but you can make good businesses when you get connected to them. Most of the startups that you see, let's say, I'll give a typical example of Stripe, right? Stripe's first few customers were their batchmates, and one of those batchmates was DoorDash, right? So you understand how DoorDash really flew and took Stripe along with it. So the connections, the network that you can build through Y Combinator is a very vast network, and you can definitely leverage that. And again, third point is sort of in continuation to the second only, but in business terms of whatever we were doing, not just learning, not just network or as customers, but as well as be able to expand Void to, let's say, the US market or the Latin America market. We definitely wanted to explore that space. We wanted to go out of a country and start selling a product foreign lands. That was the third reason why we decided that we wanted to go and do Y Combinator.
Congratulations on that again. I'm kind of curious as to what point you're in right now. You haven't completely gone through the 3 months? Am I right in thinking that?
So we've already gone through the process, the second batch, which is in now. I mean, sort of what I mean by second is like if you were the first, then second one. The first remote batch of winter 21. So our program was from Jan to March of 21. So we are, I think, 4 months post our demo day. Demo day is last day of your Y Combinator program, where you pitch to all the investors who sign up for it, such as A16Z, Sequoia, etc., etc. So the demo day was in ending of the March. So it's been 4 months.
That's awesome.
Hi there. If you're enjoying this podcast, would you mind leaving us a review, a like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform? Thanks so much. That really helps our reach. The Founders Voyage podcast is now proudly sponsored by VidOps. Kane at VidOps has been taking care of our editing since early 2024. He works efficiently, and I'm sure you'll agree that he does a great job. Thank you to VidOps for helping bring this podcast to life. If you want the same great support we're getting for your podcast, or you need help with video, photography, or animation, you can get 10% off at vidops.io using our referral code Voyage. That's vidops.io, referral code Voyage. Now back to the show.
At this point, having participated in quite a few different opportunity programs designed to help startups grow and scale, I feel like you're in a bit of a unique position. Not many people have been able to do that. And I was wondering what advice and methods have continued to be useful to you and really sort of stuck with you throughout.
That's right. I've gone through a couple of programs, the entrepreneurship bootcamp being one. Then we were a part of an incubator in our own country. I was second, and Y Combinator was third. There's another one which was in between, that was Antler. We had applied for Antler also, and we sort of got enrolled in Antler, which is another program. If anybody's heard of it. That was Y Combinator, before Y Combinator, and when we got into Y Combinator, we left that program in the middle. So yes, I mean, all of these programs have different kinds of learning for me. I would say, if you starting out, you plan to start out, and if you want the best guidance or understand the framework, then entrepreneurship bootcamp as was played a tremendous role in giving that initial set of motivation and head start. I would call the bootcamp as a head start, because a lot of these things people don't understand before starting out a business, right? I mean, let's say find an idea which is exciting enough, and I see a lot of people just going behind the idea just because they like it, they love it. That's not how businesses or startups are built, right? The entrepreneurship bootcamp has always told us to do a good PMR and not influence our solution to people while doing the PMR, calculating time, calculating the CAC, calculating the LTV. So if I had not known these things, I would have definitely been in the same position as I was earlier before going to the bootcamp, right? After college, I would have gone with an idea, you know, trying to pitch my solution here and there, and not really understanding what problem could be, what the market sizing could be. Does it even make sense to, go ahead and pursue this problem statement? Is it even worth it? All of those calculations, all of those. So that's definitely a framework, it's a proper framework in my understanding. And going through that framework really set up, the pillars of how to basically start something, how to make sense out of this crazy, chaotic world of building a startup. Because what happens next is everybody has a different journey, right? It's going to be very different. I mean, let's say a startup which is scaled successfully, let's call them A, and there's another startup which is well funded, let's say startup B. They both have different journeys, A and B. And but the basic remains the same. And that basic is where bootcamp has helped me in understanding. So that was one thing, the basic being clear, probably venturing into another business, or let's say having one problem statement, but realizing that this wouldn't work, by doing some math wouldn't really harm me, right? I mean, if I knew the, let's say, certain metrics which could help me determine a problem's worth or value to a potential customer. So if I could gauge that early, that's the best thing, to go and build it as an MVP. So that, and the next set of programs are, after it, right? Once you've realized these things, either you learn it, or probably you learn it yourself, or you learn it from someone else. So if I learned from someone else, there were other people who learned it themselves. If not through the bootcamp, might or might not have gone through and understood it myself, but the bootcamp really ingrained that kind of terminology in me, and that's been helpful. That was one. And then, when we were doing Y Combinator, a lot of things were just, us getting reminded of what we were taught in the bootcamp, or the courses that the bootcamp given to us. So that definitely helped. And in Y Combinator, we were able to pitch very carefully, and we knew what the market sizing we should pitch, right? And to the investors as well, right? Not just during the Y Combinator, but after the Y Combinator, when we were pitching to investors. So that also helped. We could pitch. So there were people who would pitch, my market size is $10 billion or $12 billion, but the bootcamp says is one particular key, learning that I had, that market sizing cannot be that big. It doesn't make sense. There's something wrong. So those kind of things stick. They're always in the back of my mind. That's for the again for the bootcamp. As in for the Y Combinator, that the program is very different. They go and get your hands dirty. The problem statement you have, right? It's not. It cannot be a framework, right? When you have a problem statement in your hand, what you have to do is execute it and fail fast and experiment. Y Combinator is going to help you in that particular scenario, where you have a problem statement, and that you've proven that this is an actual problem. So now let's build the solution for it. Get all the help that you want from Y Combinator. That's the kind of journey that you can pursue with Y Combinator. So one being generic framework to understand and realize how things or businesses are built, and then if you have a problem statement, how do you build a business around that particular problem statement? So those are two different learnings that I have from the two different programs.
It's good that you're able to hold those things kind of in tandem and work with them simultaneously. Someone or a company that's able to sort of see multiple sides of an equation at once and hold on to what's most relevant to them in the moment. I do think that's the key to longevity. So I think it's great in a way that you've had the opportunity to participate in all of these programs, because I think my mind would be almost overwhelmed with advice. There's just so much to learn from so many individuals. So kind of building off of that, one of the things I think is interesting about Y Combinator is that they say welcoming batches rather than just individual founders or companies is not just efficient for them, but helpful to those founders and companies because they help each other. So I was wondering if that has been part of the experience for you, if that's been helpful to you at all to collaborate with other founders and companies.
Definitely. I mean, the first day when Michael Siebel is who heads Y Combinator, he cites one particular thing. When the batch was starting, I didn't realize it, I didn't feel about it that much, but by the end of the batch, I realized that whatever he was saying was actually right. He says that these are the people who are going to be with you through most of your difficult times, because you're spending this key journey with each other as a company, right? Not just as an individual, because with a company, you have a lot of things at stake. As an individual, you don't have a lot of things at stake. You don't have a team, right? You don't have commitments to a particular problem statement, to a particular metric. In Y Combinator, you're going to make lots and lots of good connections, and you also end up making friends who are going to be on your wedding day. They're going to be that close to you. People that we met during the batch, we've bonded with them. Even after the batch, we are still like a community. There are lots of WhatsApp groups. There are lots of platforms that they host. Always very helpful. I haven't seen a community as active, as interactive, even after the batch. Or let's say it's huge in number, right? The number of companies who there, number of founders who've been involved in Y Combinator, but the community remains active. That's very surprising, but yet it's very helpful. So let's say you are a company which is selling a product and you're into Y Combinator, and one of the batchmates is going to be a potential customer or can be, your customer or can be your potential customer. So even after the batch ends, right? They're helpful, more helpful towards people they know, the companies who chose to be with them even when they were small, right? That kind of payback feeling of paying back or payback is very encouraging to build products with and along each batchmate. So what they say is actually correct. The cohort is the reason why it makes more sense, right? The mentors are there, but the people you meet, you work with, are also equally passionate and equally motivated people. And when you meet such people, you work with them, you don't understand, but your own motivation also doubles up, seeing how they're also working hard and have taken a plunge. It's always great to see other people who've taken plunge and work with them.
Absolutely. And I think there's a feeling of connection knowing that someone else has also taken that plunge that you have. They've also put themselves into that position, and you've got that sort of comradeship based around it. Now, one thing that I think is very interesting, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with, is the creation of teams, especially your initial team. I was wondering if there were any criteria that you had in mind when considering hiring your initial team members. And do you have any recommendations for entrepreneurs who are looking to hire key members now?
This is definitely, I think, very question worth highlighting. I mean, how do you actually go ahead and build your founding team of hire for the first set of people that you're going to work with for a longer period of time and going to be like family to you? One of the key criteria that I had was not to look for a very skilled person. In my case, I was pretty fixated on the thought that I'm going to interview people who are generalists, right? Little bit of skill, yes, that is needed, but I am not looking for an experienced person in that role, because skill can be developed. Skill is not something that's very hard to develop, but what's harder to develop is the attitude. Or let's say not develop but change. is attitude, right? That kind of attitude to, understand that this is like going to be a tough journey. And it's not like you're working in Amazon or a Facebook of the world, but you're actually working in a very small company. But you understand, you believe in their vision, and that kind of motivation is what you have to spot hiring your initial set of developers, operation executives, etc., etc. So the attitude towards building a product is something that we were looking for, and these were generalists who would, when the time comes, could also post on social media, even if they're good at Python. But when it's required, they wouldn't run away, or they wouldn't say it's not my work. But what they say is, okay, if the team needs it, or if the product needs it, or if the company needs it, we'll do it. With that kind of generalist, and we'd like to be a generalist. We want to grow in all sorts of fields, and we don't want to be fixed to, let's say, development only, Python only. Of course, that's going to be the primary job, but generalists are a go-to, right? Somebody who shows you a slightest chance that, slightest of their side, that they could be generalists and not just developers. Let's say I'm giving developers as an example. So you definitely should pursue that kind of a person as compared to a very skilled person. So you should definitely pursue that. Hiring generalists instead of specialized people in your founding team.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you kind of taking us through the layers of that because I know you've been through many layers of onboarding people. Andrew actually has a comment and a question for you. So I'm going to pass the mic to him.
Hi, Sarthak. Good to hear what you're sharing. So thank you for that. And you made a comment about these varieties of communities from the accelerators and incubator programs. And I think the number one difference with the reason why I started this in class one, or before class one started actually, was the founding value of if you want to go far, go together. And so the follow up question to my comment is, has this, I guess, base value or culture impacted your life? And how then does it impact, or if at all, has it impacted the way you create culture or values in your business or startup and also personal life and family?
Yeah, Andrew, so good to hear from you. Been a long time. Definitely, I mean, this is like so apt, right? If you want to go far, go together. If you don't build connections, if you don't build bonds while you're starting up, particularly, that's a bad sign. And I used to think like that. When I was building a business, I planned to build a business. I thought that, no, I'm not going to, waste my time. That's how I used to think. I know it sounds very stupid now, but back then I was felt like I'm going to concentrate on what I am building, where I come from, what are my thoughts. I will keep my integrity, never really go after and look at distractions, and I would really be fixated to my own things. But the more I did that, the less I learned. The less I learned, the less I grew. Obviously, the lesser I learned, I grew. It indirectly impacted whatever I was building or working for. There was no growth. But once I realized, the connections can take you really far and pull you from wherever you are. If they give you a hand and if you take it, you never know where they can lift you to, right? That's the kind of bond that you have to make with people, and to have faith with a lot of people. You have to understand that whatever they bring to table may be something that you're not really concerned about, or it's not affecting you. But understanding people's perspective gives you the ability to have acceptance in your life. When you build together, when you make communities, when you bond, or if you go do things together, one thing that you definitely learn is acceptance. And acceptance of who they are, where they come from, what kind of things they say, what privileges they have and you might not have. So when you get that sort of acceptance, applying that across all of the aspects in your life can help you, be a more calm person, get less stressed out when things go wrong, understand that things are even worse, and you are accept if there's a challenge in front of you, you can overcome it because you know a lot of people, you've bonded with them, you know a lot of stories. You get courage to accept things, and acceptance not only helps you get past things or help you become a better person, but it also definitely affects the people around you, right? Once you become accepting to their opinion, to their perspective, it makes them realize that you are the person they can also talk to, and they can share things. And once sharing of stories takes place, it definitely impacts. It's not always in commercial sense, but at a personal level, at an emotional level, you become stronger, and all of these things impact a founder for sure, right? How their mental state is, how well they handle their temperament. So that can definitely make or break things for a founder. And acceptance, coming back to why I say acceptance like multiple times, is because while starting up, you're going to get a lot of resistance and you're going to get a lot of stress. I mean, even when you're doing it, right? I still get that. And that could be family, with your family, right? You would be spending less time with them. They would have problems and you wouldn't have solutions for it. And they'd expect you to find solutions, or they'd want you to spend time with them. You understand their perspective as well, and you start balancing your work and your personal life. So when you start accepting their opinion, when you start accepting that yeah, they have a problem and that makes sense to you, so then you start balancing that aspect. And then if it was for, let's say, your employees or your team, right? If they have a problem, you don't accept it, then they're going to leave, right? So when you accept their opinion, their perspective, it can definitely help you grow as a person, as a team, and then eventually can also impact your business. So with employees or with team members, I have another point to make, is when people say that, keep your employees happy and they will keep your customers happy. That's actually true, right? I just focus on my team now. I just want them to feel the best. I just want them to feel like they're part of a bigger vision. And when they are involved, I don't have to really talk to my customers a lot. The team is passionate enough and motivated enough to solve the customer problems, go out there, talk to them, and I don't really have to motivate them, because I've started accepting their opinion. I've started to incorporate whatever feedback they have. That makes them feel valued at the same time, and when they feel valued, they give their best, and when they give their best, the company grows altogether.
Sarthak, thank you for sharing that insightful response. Just one quick last comment. It's really the concept of Ubuntu, which is the African word or Kenyan word for I am because we are. And so we're so thankful again for Spencer and Nancy for Founders Voyage, and look forward to more.
Thank you so much, Andrew, and thank you so much, Sarthak. I think that was a great answer.
We also didn't get a chance to ask you this last time, even though I realized we've actually started ending all of these conversations like this. But I was wondering if you could kind of share your best life advice so far. So it can either be a favorite quote, advice someone else has given you, or just a mantra that, has really stuck with you. So anything you like, but just kind of your life advice for us so far.
That's a tough one, Nancy. I mean, I'm often found quoting a lot of things, but one that has really helped me get through a lot of things is, nothing is as bad as it seems, and also nothing is as good as it seems, right? So choose your reaction, or choose your understanding of the situation, appropriately, and don't get too overwhelmed by failure or success. Both of these things are not like they seem. So, I mean, it would be nothing's as bad as it seems, and nothing's as good as it seems.
That's really wonderful. I completely agree with you. And sometimes just simple messaging to yourself is really powerful like that. Well, thank you so much, Sarthak, for all of the time that you gave us today. I feel like I learned so much about your personal journey, and I thought I already knew you, but I'm really excited for where you're going next. And we definitely want to continue that conversation with you, continue to support you in your voyage, as we say. So please let us know how we can be helpful to you. One of the things we want to start asking too is if there's an area of interest that you have, we'd love to find a featured speaker to kind of support that conversation, and you can come back and join us and ask them about their journey. So if you have anyone in mind, obviously that's great too, but definitely keep that in your mind, and we'd love to know what you'd like to hear more about and learn more about. Thank you so much again, and thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thanks, Nancy. It was great answering the questions, and definitely been exploring a lot of fields, considering that the whole world has opened up suddenly, and there are lots of ideas which are popping up, and we don't mind pivoting, we don't mind experimenting. So I would definitely come back to you if there's anything that I will definitely, you can get from the community, I wouldn't hesitate. I would definitely message you, Nancy or Spencer.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Sarthak. Have a great day or evening ahead, everyone.
You've just finished another episode of Founders Voyage, the podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. The team at Founders Voyage wants to thank you from the bottom of our hearts. We hope you enjoyed your time with us, and if so, please share this with someone else who might enjoy this podcast. You can also support us by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and by donating to our Patreon. Outro music today is Something for Nothing by Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band.